after all so many years, still the career path is not very clear. Like, what do you do when you become a scientist, and where are the opportunities that exist? So, if you can give some kind of highlight so that students who are watching this podcast, right, and who are interested in science, they can get some ideas like what they can do.
So one thing is, one has to bear in mind is that a career in science, just like a career in medicine, uh, is not as accelerated as, say, a career in computer science or any other business path is. So one has to be a little ready for that. As I mentioned, the traditional path was to train as a scientist, then go abroad, work with different organizations as a postdoctoral trainee, come back and apply to be a tenure track scientist in either an Indian university or Indian institution or any other institution that one wants to work with. That still does exist as a path for a scientist, where your work is focused on creating, solving problems at a fundamental level, creating more and more knowledge, publishing scientific papers, guiding PhD students, and also, create basically act as a, work towards a professorship and higher accolades in science. The other path would be to train as a scientist, get your PhD from a reputed organization, and work with research institutions or work with industries. There are companies that produce biologics, there are companies that produce different drugs. So there is speaking as a biological fundamental scientist, I'm sure there are similar streams in the chemistry and physics side as well. So there are industries now that will employ you as a scientist after your PhD. Right? So it's not as if there are new avenues emerging. It all depends upon whether how well your own interest aligns with what is out there in the industry. For example, if you're interested in the world of insects and entomology, then you should probably look towards working with an agricultural products company after your PhD. Right? If you're interested in something that is human health related, then there is a slew of companies that are making human health products, biological products, non-biological drugs. There's a lot of interest. There's a lot of avenues there. So one has to understand where one's interest lies, and then look at the industry landscape as to whether you can get gainful employment after your PhD or not.
Definitely, employment is a big concern because, right, you want to kind of, you have a livelihood to care for, and so the things that you mentioned, right, these are for India also equally applicable right now. You see those things emerging in India as well, or you were particularly talking about abroad?
No, I think for India, this is very important. If we want to, there is a lot of focus on make in India or innovate in India, right? And you hear about success stories about how people are creating defense products, people are creating space products, or products like drones in India, which is fantastic. I mean, if those companies are given a firm footing, and there are many such companies that come out of India, then people who train themselves in fundamental physics and chemistry can definitely find employment opportunities there. Similarly, we need to have more and more companies that are willing to take the leap. If creation of a new product is a huge effort on both the side of the fundamental researcher as well as the investors who invest in those ideas. So, but there has to be more avenues for people to come and take that, bridge that gap between researchers and business. If there are more companies that are working to create newer and newer products, then of course, that sets up the trend for students of fundamental sciences to come and join that industry. What is required on the part of the student who, say, if you were talking to a 12th grade or a even younger student, is to understand that they have a genuine interest and a capability to work in that field of science.
Because
it cannot be temporary.
At an early age, it's slightly difficult to kind of know your interest also, right? And if you don't see many opportunities, because people are not talking about science, right? Then they will not take interest also, right?
Let me say it the other way around. There should be, by the time you come to your graduation, so your post 12th standard, you should know that you really want to work in this field, and there are enough opportunities also there as well. It should not be treated like a default option. Like if you couldn't get into medical, if you couldn't get into your chosen stream of professional training, then you come back into a BSc and you say, okay, I'm happy as a scientist. That's not the way it should be, right? So
there should be genuine interest. Okay.
Right. You have to have genuine interest. You will, of course, find enough training. In fact, there is a profusion of channels for training oneself or going out and seeking mentorship now than there was earlier. So,
Sure. I think that gives a good idea to all the students who are watching this.
okay,
And basically, you have to be strong and you have to be kind of also know what exactly you are interested in and kind of hone that interest, and then you take this leap. Otherwise, if you're not cut out for it, you may kind of find it, you don't feel interested in it later, right?
exactly.
So observe your interest from early. Let's say you're in 8th or 9th or 10th standard, let us say, and you feel like really kind of these things excite you, let's say chemistry or medicine or whatever scientific field, then you can you should start researching. You should probably start reading news about it, what organizations are working in those areas, and then probably you can plan your further education accordingly.
Okay.
Okay.
Don't treat